Welcome again to another episode of the Hangout Cafe. I'm your host Joseph Njao, and today we'll be tackling a national conversation that has been in the minds of so many people, especially now in the current society that we are in and in the current political atmosphere that we are in. And I felt that it was important and prime for me and for Hangout Cafe to talk about this, since everybody is talking about it and it's a national dialogue, and it's good to at least give a few thoughts here and there and then see how it goes. And because of a current trend in the Kenyan society in which opinion leaders, which in most cases are usually politicians, and the fact that once our politicians pick a particular point of view, it seems to be gospel all around, depending on the following and the supported and his or her supporters. I felt like it is important that at this point in time we go through what they are saying and just in a way get to understand their point of view, and at the same time get to give cross examination on their points of views and get to kind of like have a balance between the two. And that is why today in Hangout Cafe we're going to be doing something different, something that we haven't done before, and that is we're going to be reacting to interviews by these political leaders. And I want to start with an interview that the Deputy President gave to Citizen TV, and we're going to go through some of the things that he said, and then we're going to check the pros and cons and try and discuss and see how try and understand his point of view, to be honest. So without any further much to do, let's get to the video.
BBI exercise, and we've gone through these motions, when Kenyans were raising issues. When I spoke, for example, in Bomas, when church leaders spoke, when Muslims spoke, pastoralists, the Catholic Church, and other stakeholders, the representatives of farmers and others. Certainly, the BBI Secretariat is listening.
So you are hoping they were listening to you yesterday? Is there any other sort of formal process going to them, taking those recommendations, or you're hoping they watched the press conference and they're going to act on it?
It is the case. The manner in which this process has been conducted, as you are aware, when we worked on the constitution that culminated in 2010, there was a law that provided that this exercise will go in this manner, these are the people responsible, and this is the process. Unfortunately for the exercise we are engaged in, there is no legal framework. So we have to work with what we have. And fortunately, there are people listening, and changes are being made, and Kenyans are witnessing that indeed some of the concerns that have been raised have been taken on board.
But to say that there was no legal framework, I mean, some people would say the president appointed a task force, which I would imagine is within his power to appoint.
Yeah.
And they brought recommendations, and right now they are collecting signatures, which is a requirement in the law under Article 255 about amending the Constitution.
Through a popular initiative. What
is outside the law in all these things that are going on?
I think there is need to be contextualized. For example, Joe, the Supreme Court already made a decision that process is as good as the result.
Before we continue, one thing that I like about this is that, well, he seems to know what he's talking about, of which it's something that you have to congratulate him on and be like, yeah, you seem to know whatever you're talking about and the context, because even with the challenge that Joe gave him, or the fact that the powers of the president in choosing a committee or a steering committee for the BBI, in a way, like he completed the name of what he completed the requirement or the task that the president was to do. So that is kind of heartening, because it seems you're not talking to somebody who's just talking out of turn or out of reason. It's like it's somebody who understands what actually seems to be going on. But Let's continue and see.
So we need to be careful on the process. What is the process we are following? Is this a popular initiative? And if it is a popular initiative, how is it being done? Or is it a parliamentary initiative? Because that is the provision of the Constitution, Section 255, the one you have mentioned.
So as you stand here tonight, you're saying that you have absolutely no idea what procedure this attempt to amend the Constitution is following. You cannot find it in the law.
Other people, we are all in this process. At some point, maybe it will become clear, but your guess is as good as mine.
Tonight I'm interested in your views because
we do not have a legal framework that is supporting this process, like the way the 2010 205 constitution making process was undertaken. But that is neither here nor there. What is important now is that we are in this process, right? And let me tell you, Joe, I know there is a lot of push that, you know, the train has left the station. It's too late. Where were you? It's been 2 years, you know?
That's a legitimate question because you have been around.
And I did say yesterday, it is never too late to do the right thing. On the merit of what we are saying.
I mean, it's true. Like even sometimes in the processes of court and all that, like, and just general morality, it is never too late to do the right thing. Now, in this case, doing the right thing is contextualized in that him speaking out the way he's speaking out and whatever he is saying at the moment, if that is the right thing. So to somebody it may seem like the wrong thing, but to him it may seem like the right thing, which is like kind of what the contention is at the moment.
And it applies the same. When I spoke in Bomas, when other stakeholders spoke subsequent to Bomas, there was the same argument. Why are you speaking now? Why is the church speaking now? Why is this group speaking now? But because of the weight and the seriousness of what everybody was saying, reason prevailed. And the promoters of BBI took on board what Kenyans said, including what some of us said, including what the church said, including what other stakeholders said. And I think in this country, it is important for us to listen to one another. And that is why I have said, and I have been consistent, and up to now, I still believe that we shouldn't have a win-lose. We should have a win-win.
I appreciate that. And
well, now, if for those who saw the BBI launch that they did in Bomas of Kenya, when he was making a speech and then he was being booed by some people, that kind of like takes me back a bit, because like whatever he's speaking about here doesn't 100% correlate with whatever happened, but on the aspect of which people listen to each other, and after listening to each other, like they kind of like took that into advisement. That is possible because after that launch, the political narrative or whatever people started to speak about were the points in which everybody saw. Now, with regard to his opinion that we shouldn't have a win-lose situation, it's 50-50. It's 50-50 because knowing how the Kenyan political atmosphere usually is, it means that somebody has to lose. The aspect of having a win-win situation is usually very foreign when it comes to the Kenyan political climate. Like somebody has to lose and we have to then again extend our hand and try and accommodate. Like that has usually been the cycle. So this is a breath of fresh air, if I might say, but at the same time a question like, will this kind of outlook actually survive will it actually survive when it's taken to the political arena? But I don't know. Let's listen in.
Is possible.
And we will define that.
And through consensus, we should be able to get
and we'll
ourselves
define
there.
that in a moment. But what I'm trying to get at, tonight you're saying this process is essentially illegal. You're saying that you want consensus and you're not going to go to the BBI Secretariat where they have been collecting signatures and doing all of these things. And you're still telling us you're not saying no in this referendum?
You see, the words, what you have said are your words. They are not my words. Yeah, I'm very careful on what I say because I hold myself to account for everything I say. I have told you that this is a constitution-making process. The constitution is not about the people promoting. The constitution is about every Kenyan, myself included. As a patriot, if the constitution of Kenya is being amended, and I said in Bomas, I do not have the luxury to stand aside and say, since I am not a promoter of this exercise, I do not want to do anything about it. Because if I don't do anything about it, we will end up with a document, and if the wrong thing happens, what happened to that gentleman in Germany's Hitler's Nazi movement, where there was Martin Niemöller. Martin Niemöller was a Lutheran priest. And he said the following, finally, because he ended up in a detention camp. So Martin said, when they came for the socialist, I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. When they came for the trade unionist, I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Finally, when they came for me, there was nobody to speak. What I'm saying is the following. I am here. I am a Kenyan. Something is happening to the Constitution.
One, before he finishes whatever he's saying, I have to like interject and say that in a way I agree, because it's the same disease that young people have been suffering from for a long time, and that's the problem of which you don't speak out whenever there's an issue, and then rules are passed, regulations are passed, policies are passed, and once they become too apparent and they start like interfering with our daily lives, start complaining like, oh, you guys made a rule, you guys did 1, 2, 3 behind our backs, and now they're hurting us as young people. And sometimes I feel that if we had an active participation in the making process of such rules and such policies and all that, at least once they are passed, we had a say, or once they are passed, at least we played a part in making sure that it makes life easier for us. And kind of like, if you have, I think everybody has freedom of speech and your right to your own opinion. So if you had something to add, I mean, why not add it? I mean, why not go out and tell people this is the point of view that I do hold? Because in the greater national conversation, your voice has to matter. It doesn't matter whether, I know it's like a stretch, especially in this kind of in our current society, where if you're not rich, if you're not a politician, if you're not well, let's say in a certain social class, your point of view doesn't matter. I mean, like, yeah, your point of view usually doesn't carry much weight, but at the same time it should, because you're a citizen, and whatever is happening will affect you directly. So it is important for you to speak out. So, and I think I resonate with that aspect of it, in which he's trying to say that whether you guys want to hear this or not, I have to speak out and I have to tell you, because at the end of the day, once the process is done, I want to sit back and look at it and say, at least I raised my voice. So which is that it's something that I relate to, and it's something that I actually subscribe to. But now, on the notion of which you've spoken out, and well, you are the deputy president, and it seems like people are not listening to whatever you're saying, especially those who are like for and not against. Now that is where the contention comes in. I mean, is that the kind of atmosphere you want to have, where we don't actually listen to each other? But who knows, we'll see the other side once we finish listening to him. But let's continue.
And it is my duty I do not want to say, I do not want history to judge me, that William Ruto was there. He was the deputy president. He knew something that was not right was happening. He didn't say it. He had good ideas on how we could end up with a better document. He was selfish. He did not step out to say, I think this document can be made better this way.
In the entire conversation, it is important for us to note one simple fact, is that as we continue to have this discussion, we need to listen and understand one another. And in listening and understanding one another, we come closer, or it brings us closer to having a consensus or having an understanding on the things that we all agree on and the things that we don't. Because how can the very instrument that was brought forth to bring about national cohesion be the same thing that is driving people apart? Just because one party says that we can't compromise, and another says that you have to compromise, you know? Why don't these two parties set aside their egos and their political ambitions or whatever is driving them, and come back to the table and practically listen to one another? Because what is at stake is much more important than whatever than your political agenda, than your political ambition, than your political status, than your social status. Because national cohesion and healing the wounds is the most prime thing at this point. And because the very objective of whatever we're doing is to come closer to that, and we're supposed to do everything in our power to listen to one another and understand one another and come up with ways forward even when you're having conflicting points of views. And that is why at this point in time such interviews are important, because you get to understand why a person takes a particular stance. As a voter, you get to see why he's saying the things he's saying, and then you weigh that on the reasons that you have. And it doesn't matter whether you've already made up your mind or you're trying to, in whatever position. It doesn't matter. What matters is, are you taking the time, are you taking the opportunity to actually listen, to actually understand? And that's why there are a few things that have risen to me. Number one is that we have rational individuals in the country, people who really can understand different points of views, because we are not stupid. Number two is that don't underestimate the ordinary mwananchi. They know whatever they want and they know how they're going to get it. So as a politician, don't look at the voter as a means to an end, because you are the means to an end, because they are the ones who elect you to be where you are. And the third part is, as much as we are talking about having a referendum in whatever capacity, it should be inclusive. Everybody should be included, because even though the majority would win the day in such a national conversation that is towards national unity and healing wounds and all these other things, building bridges as it is called, you also have to consider those who are going to be affected, because that doesn't fit in the narrative of which what this is, right? So it is most important for us to take a moment to slow down, really listen to one another, understand one another, then make a way forward. Because that's the only way that we're going to understand one another, and that's the only way we're going to come up with an effective way forward that critically addresses all issues that are affecting various demographics, from the young people to the judiciary, to the legislature, to the executive, to every single party and every single part of this country. And for the young people, we've often been used as the currency for political processes, since we are the ones who make and break some of these people. I'm not saying that women and men and all other demographics within the political process do not matter, but we are the ones who tend to suffer the most. So it is apparent for every young person to sit down and weigh all issues. Don't just say, I'm doing this because so and so is doing this. Sit down, analyze. take a moment, understand why you're saying the things you're saying, because at the end of the day, as you heard, if it passes, for example, and there are various things that end up being unfair to the young people, you start asking yourself a question: why didn't I speak out? Why is it unfair to me? And when you had an opportunity to do something, you didn't. So it is most important that you start now. Learn that in the national narrative or in the national conversation, your voice matters. Always will and always have. So make sure it is indeed heard and understood, because that's the only way we're going to overcome some of the injustices that we face as young people, especially in national conversations like this one.